I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, March the 10th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Pay for what you need, not for what you don't. Keep your cash, don't wait for a rebate, and get the same results. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. Got a good feeder cattle auction here today on Monday. They're expecting around 8,000 head. Be a pretty typical run for them. They are not going to start until 6 o'clock in the morning. May have something to do with the hour that we lost here last weekend, but they'll have a good offering there. The next primetime livestock video that they're going to have is going to be on April the 3rd. So talk to your Joplin Regional Stockyards representative, sales rep there, and sell your cattle right off the farm there if you'd like to do that. But to check out more about Joplin Regional Stockyards, go to joplinstockyards.com, and of course you can watch all of Joplin's sales on DVAuction.com. Freaky Friday, and I'm not sure if everybody understands how big of a deal Friday was. Friday was major. It was a major turnaround, major pivot there. We've seen the Packers just slash slaughter here for the last many weeks, and just unbelievably light slaughter. It's hard to believe that they can fill all of their orders with no more cattle than they're processing. Of course, the weights are up, and it's all about tonnage. But in turn, they have not been buying hardly any negotiated cash fed cattle on a direct basis in our 5-area feeding region. I mean, just really light numbers crossing through negotiated sales there. And it wasn't looking like your cattle feeders had any leverage. The guys in the Southern Plains were just puking them up, and it was hard to believe that at lower prices every week, knowing that everybody else that sells is going to get at least $1 and probably $2 over that market that they establish. And if you sell on the grid, you probably likely get more if you've got decent kind of cattle. But it was just not looking very good. Even Iowa, that has been selling more cattle in a negotiated manner for the past year or so than they have for the past several years, which is against the trend, that they weren't selling any cattle hardly either. But all of a sudden, and I apologize if I steered any of you guys wrong, because I'm usually pretty upbeat on the market and positive and looking for guys to dig in and get more. But I wasn't very optimistic on Friday's Feeder Flash episode. If you watched that, I didn't think there was a chance to get any more trade. Of course, nobody did. Nobody that had cattle on the show list. Nobody, even your country buyers, for the Packers, they treat them like mushrooms too. Those guys don't know anything. Of course, they've got to be the ones out and look the cattle feeders in the eye and deal with them week in and week out. They don't know either. And then all of a sudden, Friday morning, they give them $5 more to buy cattle than what they were doing earlier. And it was just unbelievable. And I knew that I had misread the market for Friday's broadcast there early Friday morning, whenever I talked to one of my contacts there that actually sells negotiated cash cattle in Texas on a regular basis. And he told me that his feedlot manager counseled him to pass the 197 that they were offering early that morning. Now, there was plenty of guys taking 196 in the Southern Plains on Thursday afternoon and late Thursday, and they counseled him to pass the 197 Friday morning. And he told me that he did that, and I was like, gosh, can't believe that the feedlot managers still give you the option and tell you, what your options are and things like that. But this is like the 1990s or something. But no, he said that's what they told him. He said that's kind of out of the norm, but that's what they told him. And then a little bit later than that, the Fed Cattle Exchange, the online trading platform for fed cattle that has negotiated trade and competition and is transparent, which is really nice. They sold top quality, really nice black-hided cattle up in Montana, bid the grid at 203. Whoa, we hadn't heard anything like that. When I heard that, I knew that I had misread the market for sure, because immediately after that, by early Friday afternoon, they were trading a lot of cattle back up to $2. You know, we were out of the $2 plus range there for a couple of weeks, but back up to $2 and higher in the northern plains, up to 202, 202 and a half. So you know, we just it was a nice thing that come along, made us feel good that at some point the packers will actually come to their milk. We're not quite like the hogs yet. We're getting closer every day, but even though they slashed the kills, even though they hadn't been buying a lot of cattle negotiated cash, they still finally broke and had to give some more money. And these packers are squalling. I mean, they're losing. And I never actually think that they're losing. I'm sure it's not great whenever, you know, they're getting $314 for their choice cutouts on the spot market, and they're paying $315 for cattle. I mean, I know that doesn't pan out. It doesn't give them anything for any expenses, especially processing those cattle. But most of those cutouts are sold just like the fed cattle are bought, on some type of a formula, and mostly way off in the future, so they don't have to give those prices on that spot box beef cutout report that we put so much stock into, which is really more watered down than what the fat cattle trade is. But that's all we got to go by, really. But you know, these packers are squalling. Some people that try to figure their break-evens with what information they give them say that they're losing about $100 a head. Well, you know, cattle feeders don't really start squirming until they get up to $400 a head loss. So, you know, these packers have had it pretty good. They had all-time record high prices during the pandemic, and you know, and having them be under the gun or in the red ink for $100 a head for a few weeks there, I don't think it's going to kill them. But it's just an amazing thing whenever you see the rules of supply and demand work. And you know, we've got the futures market in there. We've got all these alternative marketing agreements in there that are really skewing our economic laws of supply and demand. But it's still nice to know that they're still there and they still work. So thank goodness we saw that happen. And so we're going to have a bright early week here. I'm expecting your feeder cattle markets to be quite a bit higher. I'm expecting your board to continue to be higher. It was up big on Friday, especially with fed cattle. April spot market live cattle up $4 on Friday. Whoa, you just don't ever see that. So things are looking up here in the cattle market. Of course, we've been very near our all-time record highs, and we've seen new record highs on stocker cattle and calves as we get closer to spring here. But we broke those all to pieces on Friday, and I'm going to tell you about those at the end of the report like I always do. But I want to talk to you for a minute about one of the 3 states that I claim is my home. Of course, Texas I claim, and that's my home right now. New Mexico, where I grew up, and Missouri, where I spent over 15 years living, raising my kids, running cattle, and working there in Missouri, and traveling the state week in and week out. And I love that state. It's a great state. It's very rural. It's got 2 big cities. They're out on the edges, which leaves the whole rest of it for rural dwelling there. They got a lot of cattle. It's, you know, it's in the top 3, you know, pretty regular on the cattle state. And if you look how much smaller it is than the ones that are beating it, it's a great state, and it's a good sale barn state. A lot of sale barns. There's a sale barn on the corner of every street. One of my friends used to say, and I always got a kick out of that, but you know, just to give you an idea, Texas, which is the biggest cattle state annually, they do not have one sale barn auction market that sells over 100,000 cattle a year. And they've got at least 5 in the state of Missouri. and a lot of them that are close to that. So gives you an idea. They don't sell too many cattle through the video. The big videos, they don't sell too many cattle direct. They sell most of them through an auction market, and I think that's the way that cattle ought to be sold. But Missouri is also ruby red in their politics, and I love that about Missouri. And recently, Missouri won a judgment against China. The Attorney General sued China over COVID, and not just the fact that the COVID was their fault. I mean, that's a given, but sued them because he could prove that they had knowledge of COVID early, knew how deadly it was, and knew the effects that it was going to have on the world, and they hid that knowledge. And so he took it to federal court, and they had a federal judge there that listened to the case. China didn't even send anybody to defend themselves, didn't even acknowledge that it was happening. Well, when a federal judge in the United States of America has a case against you, or is hearing a case, and you don't even send anybody, you know, that's ridiculous. And so the Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, he won that case, and now the state of Missouri has a judgment against the country of China for $24 billion. You know, sometimes we forget about those B's and then the T's in the millions, billions, and trillions. That is 24,000 million that Missouri has over China there. And Andrew Bailey was not shy about it, even put it out on social media. It says, China, you owe us $24 billion, and we're going to collect every penny. And if you do not pay us every penny, we're going to start seizing your assets, including Missouri farmland. Now, this sets the stage here for all the other states. This is just Missouri, $24 billion. And I think this is a good way for us to get our Chinese land back that they come in here and bought. And I don't believe they should be able to hold that property, especially farmland, especially around some of our military assets. But this is a way to get it back, people. And you know, that was all their fault. Just think of all the struggles we had, all the money we lost. I mean, families struggled, all the people that died because of that disease, which was all their fault. And the fact that they were concealing knowledge about it, I think that gives us a good reason to start seizing their assets around here. I don't know about you guys, but I think that we should just go state by state by state and get it all back. I want to talk to you about a couple of production sales that are coming up here. The first one is Jim Felton, my buddy from out in Montana there. He is having his production sale, 52nd annual, coming up March the 14th, this Friday at 2 o'clock Central. It's going to be online only. We're actually going to be having it in the Fort Worth, Texas area, but it's going to be online only. This is the smallest offering of bulls that the Felton Angus Ranch has ever offered, but probably the most impressive. You know, the Felton family moved from eastern Montana to western Montana and moved their herd, and it kind of disrupted their ranching a little bit. But really fancy offering of bulls there. And this whole deal, I mean, they didn't come to a bunch of money and decide that they wanted to be cowboys. This is what they do. This is what they've always done. It's family owned. This is not a side gig for them. They know what they're doing. They don't follow fads. They are still breeding Angus bulls for length, growth, and feedlot performance. For more information, go to DVAuction, scroll down to the 14th and look at the Felton Angus offering there. It's got the videos up on those bulls. And don't forget to get on to DVAuction on Friday and bid on those bulls. Another sale a little bit later in the month is the Gene Plus Brangus sale at Chimney Rock Cattle Company, Concord, Arkansas there on March the 25th. Gene Plus sells more Brangus and Ultra Black bulls into more states than any other Brangus program. And if you're looking for Brangus bulls or Ultra Blacks, guys, that is the one to get on Chimney Rock Cattle Company, Concord, Arkansas, March the 25th. For more information, go to geneplusbrangus.com. Let's talk about your board for last week. April live cattle futures, Monday was down 40, Tuesday was up 240, Wednesday up 190, Thursday down 27 cents, and Friday, like I mentioned earlier, up $4. So big gain there. With April live cattle ending the week at $200.27. June ended at 196.47. March feeder cattle, Monday was down 95, Tuesday was down 17. Then Trump gave his patriotic speech there to both sides of Congress there. And Wednesday was up 225. Thursday they took most of that away at 207, and then Friday up 295, with March feeder cattle ending the week at 276.97. April ended at 278.15. Your grains for May, corn 469.25 at the end of the week. May beans ended the week at 10.25 a bushel, and hard red winter wheat for May ended the week at 564.75. Your fat cattle trade up through Thursday of last week, they had only sold 13,100, and I thought they were probably about done. And up through Thursday, they had sold them from $1.95 to $2, which was $2 higher to $2 lower, kind of uneven there. Weighted average up through Thursday was $96.69, which was down a little over $1 from the previous week. Dress sales ranged from $3.10 to $3.15, from $1 higher to $2 lower, just kind of uneven there. And your weighted average on dress steers was actually 16 cents higher at $312.93. And then Freaky Friday happened. Iowa come out on Friday, sold 7,900. They'd sold 9,000 up through 2 o'clock on Friday, but I'm confident there was a lot more sales late Friday. We'll pick those up here on Monday, and then I'll give them to you on the next report from the feeder flash. But live sales on Friday in Iowa, 198 to 202.50. We're back. Dress sales from 315 to 320. Your Nebraska sales, 25,000 on Friday early. That's huge. They'd only sold 600 more than that before. Selling from $2 to 202 live, 315 to 320 dress. That dress is $3 to $5 higher. Live sales $1 to $3 higher. Kansas, they had a lot more sales than that. They only got 500 of them reported there by 2 o'clock. 8,100 for the week, but they sold a lot of cattle in Kansas on Friday, I believe at $2. But the only thing we saw come through for Friday was 198, and nothing came through for Texas on Friday, and they'd only sold 3,700. But pretty impressive Friday there. Box beef cutout values were higher for the week. Choice cuts, your weighted average on all of last week's sales, 314.07. That was up $1.28 from the previous week's weighted average. Select sales were up 55, with a weighted average price on all of last week's sales of $303.65. Choice select spread on the weighted average was $10.42. All that information on 616 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Slaughter was only 578,000 estimated last week for cattle slaughter. That was 12,000 better than the dismal previous week, but still 6,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Kansas Regenerative Medical Center considers stem cell therapy instead of surgery. You might think, well, I don't know if that's really for me. 60% of the patients at Kansas RMC are farmers and ranchers. So take that into consideration. If you've got something that's bothering you, you don't want to be down with surgery and you hate the thought of that, check them out at kansasrmc.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance, working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index on DVAuction ended the week at 274.93 based on an 800-pound cash auction steer. That was down $5.40. A lot of the reason that was down is because the previous week we didn't have hardly any sales because it was so cold, and then we started having some sales and started having a lot more commodity type cattle, and it sucked that down a little bit. But your CME cash feeder cattle index ended the week at 273.77. Now it was down 729. But your cash feeders and your sale barns last week trended weak to $4 lower for those cattle going right into the feedlot. Now calves and stocker cattle, especially those with the best condition, $4 to $8 higher. So big gains there. Talk about one of your sales, a premium type sale there, DVAuction broadcaster in Burwell, Nebraska, Burwell Livestock Market. They had 2,900 head. Very impressive sale. Didn't have a good comparison to call a trend because the previous week the cold temperatures kind of had the receipts curbed there, but they were your NationalBeefWire stick out sale of the day. You look at the best tested weights on the steers. They had 205 head of 4-weight steers, average 452, weighted average price 411.87. 222 head of 5-weight steers, average 545 at 386.27. 322 head of 6-weight steers, average 659 at 334.59. These sound like individual quotes, but they're the cattle pulled together that were offered there in Burwell on Friday. 301 head of 8-weight steers, averaged 8 1/4, the weighted average price of $290.59. Wow. How about the heifers? 225 head of 4-weight heifers, average 467 at 363.26. 326 head of 5-weight heifers, average 546 at 338.24. And 298 head of 6-weight heifers, average 636 pounds, weighted average price 304.45. Very impressive sale there at Burwell, and we're not done talking about them yet. But some individual quotes from all around. How about Mankato, Kansas? Mankato Livestock on Friday sells 65 steers. They weighed 839 at 286. Pretty impressive there. Now a market that we've never had, never called out for an individual quote before. They've recently came to the DVAuction broadcasting family of sale barns. It's Shakota, Oklahoma livestock market there. Sam Stamper owns, runs, and I think auctioneers it too. He's an auctioneer and a good one. But check out this quote that they had late last week. 103 steer calves weighed 520 pounds in Shakota, Oklahoma, bring 392. Big time quote. I bet it's not the last time that we see them featured as an individual quote, guys, at the end of this report. How about Erickson, Nebraska? Erickson Spalding Livestock Market sold the brown steers. They weren't brown, but that's the name of the family. 120 steers weighed 681 at 340. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere, it was on Friday. It was new all-time records for commodity sale. Your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day. Burwell Livestock Market in Burwell, Nebraska. Find them on DVAuction every Friday. They sell 65 steer calves, weight 504 at 419. Never heard that before, neither of you. How about 147 steers, weighed 810 pounds, bring 305.50. Never heard that before either. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.